Morning in Portland always smells like coffee and wet pavement. That day was no different. Gray sky, slow drizzle, and the distant hum of traffic blending with the buzz of grocery store lights. I pushed my squeaky car down aisle 4, counting every price in my head. Bread, rice, oatmeal, and the small can of lactose-free milk my baby Noah needed. I knew them all by heart because every cent mattered. Around me, people chatted, kids begged for candy, and the cash registers sang their usual metallic rhythm. To anyone watching, it was an ordinary morning, but inside I felt stretched thin like a wire about to snap. There's a kind of silence that lives inside exhaustion. You stop crying, stop hoping, stop expecting kindness. You just move. The store's fluorescent lights buzzed above me, sharp and cold. Outside, the rain tapped the windows like impatient fingers. I adjusted my jacket, lifted my chin. I'd learned that weakness, real or imagined, draws eyes. And I couldn't afford eyes. Not today. The checkout line was long that morning, too long for my nerves. I stood behind a woman with perfect nails and a cart full of things I used to buy when life felt normal. Strawberries in winter, imported coffee, scented candles. When my turn came, the cashier didn't even look at me. Beep, beep, beep. His name tag said Tom. He looked barely 20, with headphones dangling from one ear and boredom written all over his face. When the total flashed, $37.84, I froze. My throat went dry. I opened my wallet, counting coins I'd already counted twice at home. Not enough. Not today. Sorry, I whispered, my voice smaller than I meant it to be. I'll have to put the milk back. Tom shrugged, didn't even glance at me. He just picked up the can and set it aside like he was tossing away trash. Beep. The sound was soft, but it cut through me like glass. Someone behind me sighed loudly. Another whispered, "Unbelievable." I could feel their eyes, pity mixed with judgment, the kind of look that burns your skin. I kept my chin up, even though shame pressed like a weight on my chest. I wanted to disappear, but then I noticed someone watching. A man in a gray jacket stood 2 aisles over, a little girl clutching his hand. He looked out of place here, calm, clean, the kind of quiet wealth that doesn't need to show off. Our eyes met for half a second. I looked away fast. He didn't. Later, I'd learn his name, Ethan Cole, 38, entrepreneur, widower, and, without knowing it, about to change everything I believed about kindness. At that moment, though, he was just a stranger watching a woman crumble quietly in a grocery store. I paid for what I could, bread, rice, oatmeal, and walked out without looking back. The rain hit my face as if to remind me I was still standing. But that day, something had cracked, and I didn't know it yet, but someone else had seen it too and couldn't look away. Outside, the drizzle had turned colder, sharp little needles against my face. I sat at the bus stop, the grocery bag tucked between my shoes, the stroller beside me. Noah slept under his worn blanket, his tiny fist curled like he was holding on to something invisible. The bus was late again. It always was. I watched the cars slide past, thinking how easy everything looked from inside them. Warmth, music, full tanks, full lives. Then a voice broke through the rain. "Excuse me, you forgot this." I looked up. It was him, the man from the store. He was holding the can of milk. "I didn't forget," I said quietly. "I just couldn't afford it." He hesitated, then smiled. Not the patronizing kind, not pity, just gentle. "Then let me pay for it," he said. "Not for you, for him." He nodded toward Noah. My pride wanted to fight, but my body was too tired for another battle. I nodded once. "Thank you." "You don't owe me thanks," he said softly. "Let me at least give you a ride home. It's freezing out here." I hesitated, because that's what you do when you've lived too long without trust. But the rain was getting harder. In his eyes, there was something honest in them. So I said yes. Inside his dark blue SUV, it smelled like leather and rain. The heater hummed. For a while, we didn't talk. Then I noticed a photo on his dashboard, a woman and a young boy, smiling in summer light. Your family? I asked. His hands tightened on the wheel. It was, he said quietly. My wife passed away 3 years ago. My son lives with her parents in Colorado. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. But in that silence, something shifted, a strange understanding. Two people, both holding on to ghosts. When we reached my apartment, a cracked old building above a laundromat, he insisted on helping with the bags. You don't have to. I know, he said, smiling faintly. But you've carried enough for one day. At the door, he paused. His eyes swept over the chipped paint, the stroller, the quiet little space I called home. You're doing better than you think, he said. And just like that, he was gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake listening to the rain on the roof, replaying his words over and over. You're doing better than you think. Nobody had said something like that to me in years. A few days later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just my name written neatly in blue ink. Lena Brooks. Inside was a single letter on thick, cream paper. Congratulations, you've been selected for the Brooks Family Support Grant. At first, I thought it was junk mail. I almost threw it out until I saw the amount written at the bottom. Enough for a semester of childcare, rent, and a little left over. I reread the letter 3 times. Brooks Family Grant. The name caught me off guard. Brooks like mine. Coincidence, I thought. Just coincidence. But it wasn't. Later, I'd learned Ethan Cole had gone home that night and couldn't stop thinking about me, about the way I'd stood in that checkout line, the quiet way I'd said sorry. He'd looked me up through a local outreach network, pretending it was for a donation program. That's when he found out my grandfather's name, Captain Henry Brooks. And it turned out, decades ago, my grandfather had saved Ethan's father from a burning house when they were both young soldiers. Ethan never forgot his father's story about the man who pulled him from the smoke. So this wasn't charity anymore. It was something else. A circle closing. Through his foundation, Ethan created the Brooks Family Grant, a scholarship and housing initiative for struggling single parents. But what he didn't tell anyone, not even me, was that I was the first recipient. He wanted me to have a new start without feeling like I owed him anything. Months passed. With the grant, I moved into a clean little apartment with sunlight in the mornings and a working stove. Noah had his own room for the first time. I went back to school, studying social work. I wanted to help women like me, women who were barely holding the edges of their lives together. Then one afternoon, I received an invitation. You're cordially invited to the Brooks Family Foundation's annual gala, celebrating the achievements of our first scholarship recipients. I nearly didn't go. I didn't have a dress or confidence or the sense that I belonged in rooms like that. But something inside whispered, show up anyway. That night, the ballroom shimmered with light. My hands trembled as I adjusted the navy dress I'd borrowed from a neighbor. And then I heard the host's voice on the microphone. Please welcome our main benefactor, Mr. Ethan Cole. My heart stopped. There he was, standing under the chandeliers, in the same gray eyes that had met mine outside the grocery store. After the event, I found him outside, under the soft city lights. Why did you do all this? I asked. He looked at me for a long time before answering. Because your grandfather saved my father, he said quietly. And then you saved me. He smiled faintly. When I saw you that day, something in me woke up again, the part that still believed in good people. The wind lifted my hair. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. It turned out the smallest act, a stranger's quiet dignity, could echo for generations. Not everyone celebrated what Ethan and I had built. When something good starts to grow, someone always tries to cut it down. Her name was Vanessa Hale. Ethan's business partner. She was beautiful, sharp, and ruthless, the kind of woman who never liked being second to anyone, especially not to a single mother who once couldn't afford milk. It started with whispers that I'd manipulated him, that I'd played the tragic card to win sympathy. Soon the rumors spread through the foundation like poison. A board meeting was called to review the grant's integrity. I walked into that glass-walled room with trembling hands but steady heart. Dozens of polished faces turned toward me, some curious, others judgmental. Vanessa smiled that slow, professional smile. "Ms. Brooks, would you care to explain your connection to Mr. Cole?" I took a breath. "Yes," I said, "but I think you already know it." The room went still. "You call this charity," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "But it isn't pity, it's legacy. Families like mine and his are bound by what we give each other, not by what we take." Ethan stood then. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. He placed an old, framed photo on the table. Two young soldiers standing in front of a burned house, soot on their faces, pride in their eyes. "Our fathers," he said. "One saved the other's life. We just kept the promise they made that day." For a long moment, no one spoke. The air in the room felt different, heavier, truer. Vanessa's smile faltered. The truth had stripped her armor clean. The board voted unanimously, not only to continue the Brooks family grant, but to expand it. 2 years later, I graduated with honors and became director of the very foundation that once saved me. On a bright spring afternoon, Ethan and I sat outside a small cafe, my cafe. He had helped me buy it quietly, insisting it was just an investment in good coffee. Noah played in the yard with Ethan's son, Logan, two boys laughing under the Portland sun. Ethan lifted his cup and smiled. Funny how it all started with a can of milk. I looked at him, warmth flooding my chest. "No," I said softly. "It started with someone who refused to walk away." Rain began to fall, the same soft Portland rain from that night at the bus stop, but this time it felt gentle, cleansing. And as I watched the two boys chase puddles, I realized something simple and profound. Sometimes life tests us not to break us, but to remind us how powerful kindness can be when it shows up uninvited. Moral: life will humble us in quiet, painful ways, not to destroy us, but to give us chances to choose compassion over pride. A single act of kindness can outlive money, bloodlines, and even time itself. Because in the end, it's not what we earn that defines us. It's what we refuse to walk away from.